Hello, everybody. I am here with the divine, amazing Peter Alsop. I met him about, gosh, 25 years ago at an NAEYC conference. And just a little bit about him. He has a PhD in educational psychology. He is I guess, world famous children's singer. He writes incredible music, and he's also an educator and a speaker. And he's a real swell guy who's super funny and smart. How's that?
Don't have much to live up to here, do I?
Oh, you'll do it effortlessly. So, the reason why I'm so super excited and I have, just all excited and tingly to talk to Peter is because there literally aren't that many people in the world who sing songs about the issues. I've been a music teacher for over 20 years and a parent for 23 years. And there just isn't a lot out there that deals with the things that Peter deals with and in such a skillful, brilliant way. So I wanted to ask him because we're living in kind of scary times for a lot of parents and kids. And when I met him, uh, I just couldn't believe what I was hearing because I was at a conference where they were just talking about literacy and math and all those things, which are important. But he started singing, "It's only a wee wee, so what's all the fuss?" And I was like, what? Who is this man? And then I bought all his CDs and I taught my daughter, "My body's nobody's body but mine." And she memorized that song at 3, and nobody messed with my daughter. And they still don't mess with my daughter. So these songs, even though they're kind of silly or funny, are extremely important and meaningful and empowering for little girls and women. And we need that song now more than ever. So I wanted to ask your insight, oh wise Peter Alsop, on all your years of experience dealing with families. And I actually have never asked you this. When you sing about, you sing about, you touch on the subjects of sexual abuse. What is your take? Because I was molested as a kid and I've healed tremendously, but I'm still working on it. For what is the best way for parents to help and for kids or for adults who've experienced it to heal the shame of it? And do you think that we have to forgive the perpetrator? There's a juicy question. What's the best way to heal from it? There's a really huge question. In your experience, what have you seen?
Well, there's lots that's to unpack there, isn't there? Um,
Hmm.
so I'll start off with throwing a couple of things out that I find been teaching people for 50 years with the songs, and it's sort of subversive parenting education, stuff that people haven't heard before. Because my favorite thing is when some dad comes up and says, "Hey, I was listening to that the album of yours my wife bought for the kids, and I was thinking, hey, this is pretty good." And then I went, "Oh crap, I do that with my kids, don't I? Maybe I ought to cut that out." If
Mm,
I do a parenting workshop, the parents who need parenting workshops the least are the only people that come.
mm, mm,
Parents that really need it don't go to parenting workshops.
mhm,
So,
mhm,
so I mean, we all can use little tips, and I don't ever tell anyone what to do because they don't know what you should do. What I do is I share my verbs. I share the stuff that I do. And I say this worked really well. That part didn't work so well, but that part worked, and then that worked great. You might want to try that. That didn't. I ran it. I call it smorgasbord teaching because no one likes to be told what to do, and I really don't know what other people
mhm,
need to do. It's
mhm,
up to
mhm,
them to where they are in their life with what they've learned, what's going
mhm,
on around them, who the other ingredients in their family stew are, and that changes as the kids get older and we get older and our parents get older, and that's constantly changing the flavors in there, isn't it?
mhm,
So how do we do that? So there, I don't believe there are simple answers to all this stuff. What I do think is that there's ways to glasses one can put on to help them see things more clearly.
mhm,
Some of the glasses I like that I've learned to put on sometimes, when someone does something and I'm all angry and I go, "Oh, God," and I want to be upset and I go, "Wait a minute. Anger is a perfectly okay response
mhm,
when someone's crossed one of your boundaries.
Hmm.
And that was important to learn.
Hmm.
So my wife would do something and I'd be, no, I'm really angry. Sharon, I'm sure she crossed one of my boundaries. And I look and I go, oh, she didn't really cross any of my boundaries. She just won't do what I want her to do. So that isn't really something that it's my job to fix that one, isn't it? You
You're
know?
so selfish because you're not doing what I want you to do.
Yeah. But you see a little button that says save time, do it my way. See it my way.
Exactly. We agree.
So some of the stuff that I might be nice to share that answer your questions, and there's no right answers about these things.
Right. I
The
agree.
couple of things that have been coming up lately that weren't around 20 years ago or 25 or 30 when we met
Hmm.
as much was the knowledge about binary ways that men's brains work, and not
Mm.
women's brains don't work that way, but guys being in the caveman days or something, is that a friend or a foe coming? We got to
Hmm.
see it down. We need to do this or that. And it's always my way or the highway. It's always yes or no. It's
Hmm.
in or out, up or down,
Hmm.
God or godless,
Hmm.
whatever we're talking about,
Hmm.
we label people and by
Hmm.
doing that binary way of doing things.
Hmm.
And one of my favorite things about talking about, well, I've been a feminist for 50 or 60 years now, and not 60, I think it's yeah, maybe. Wow. I might have been a feminist since I was 20. So I'm just approaching 80 now. Um,
Wow.
the was when the guy's going, well, this and this and this, honey, and this and this, and the women's are going, I hold that thought, honey. That's really interesting. I've got to go feed the kids. I'll be right back. And what women do more than men, I'm told that you all can, that the female hormones can help your brain multitask. And I always thought I multitask because I could do a lot of things really fast. But when I thought about it, I do one thing right after the other. I got to
Mm.
pack my suitcase. Now I
Hmm.
got to take the suitcase to the car. I got to drive the car to the airport. I got to get to the proper terminal, get on the right gate, all of that.
Hmm.
And you do those things very fast. You feel like, well, I'm thinking of other things too. I think it's a different process, but I don't know because I don't have a woman's brain. But what I see women doing a lot of time is going, okay, honey, where do we go from here? Instead of guys who say, this is the way it ought to be. I mean, all the prophets, almost all the prophets are men, aren't they? And they think that God told them what to do. And so we're going to pass out. This
I'm
is the
sure there's a lot of women prophets. We just don't have any publicity.
no. We called what they were called community organizers, and we called them witches in the Middle Ages, and we
Yeah.
put them at the stake
Yeah.
because we, being, I don't know, speaking for the men who were in charge in Europe, I'm sure things happen in that way elsewhere too, because that's been one of the dynamics that we would love to change, isn't it?
Yeah. So how does that difference in
So
that duality, the brain, relate to healing?
what I want to bring up is what I teach and what I've learned about. I think about the difference between verbs and nouns. And if I can label something as being, my way or the highway, you're going to do it my way or the highway,
Hmm.
I'm talking about what are you going to do? And when you said, we say things, and it's the way we think. Who is this man?
Mm.
And who I am, I don't know. I can tell you what I do.
Mm.
Let me tell you another little story about that because I want to talk about verbs and nouns for a minute because it's the glasses we wear when we're looking at our life situation. And if
Hmm.
we put on another set of glasses and look through another,
Mm.
see it a little differently, we
Hmm.
get some other tools that we didn't have when we have the glasses on that we got handed from our family of origin. Okay.
Mm. Mm.
Or from our school system, or from our college, or from the place of work when we get older,
Our
or from our
culture.
partner who we really want them to love us, so we'll see it their way all the time whether
Mm.
you're a man or a woman or somewhere in that line of different sexual orientations and identifications that
Hmm.
we've been struggling with now with the Trump administration pulling the DEI out stuff. And once again, the DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, all really important, but
Hmm.
it's the way people do it. And we have some people come into our theater and just be strong-handed about it and just say, you people have just got to shut up and listen to us black people because you're and we're going, well, wait a minute. We were in a white community. We've been working for years trying to entice black people to come out and do theater with us, but it's hard. You got to bus them when you try to approach them through churches. So we're kind of allies, but why are you treating us like this?
Mm.
It's how they were doing it that became a problem, and
Mm.
that's something you can discuss. And the model I use for that is when I talk about a spoiled child. A
Mm.
lot of people say, "Oh yeah, no, I know what a spoiled child is," and I say, "Well, I can't use that language
Mhm.
because when I think of a spoiled child, what do you do with meat when it spoils? And they say,
Throw it away.
right. And we would like to do that with some of these little buggers because they're so difficult. However, if you're a human service professional or a parent, you can't do that. So tell me what the kid is doing that's achieving them that label of being a spoiled child. I
Mhm.
might be able to make some suggestions and help them figure out some other ways to do that, how they do it, the verbs, so they're not getting labeled and dismissed and canceled like that.
Mhm.
And so the verbs are very important because now we can talk about something. You know, I have been I've been left and progressive, and those are labels that mean different things to different people.
Mhm.
What I do is I care about other people a lot. I care about kids a lot, what happens to them. I care about parents who don't know how to do things um, in a way that will uplift their kid because they learned from their own parents who didn't have that skill set either, right?
Mhm.
So how to so um, what's he going to say? I'm trying to think of which story to tell you. Um, okay, so like for instance, my daughter Willow in preschool smacked somebody, and
Mhm.
and what can happen to me with that is I can get as a parent, I can be ashamed of
Mhm.
myself. My kid doing that? Did you get in your room right now? Or the teacher? We will not have that at our school. You sit in the corner, put on the dunce cap, you know?
Mhm.
That's my shame that's going on. And I make a difference between shame and guilt. I've learned that shame
Mhm.
is about who you are. There's
Mhm.
something wrong with you. And you put a kid in the corner and put a pointed hat on their head, that's a message about who they are.
Mhm.
It's not about what they did.
Mhm.
And then I go, well, let's get Willow together. Come on, Willow. What should you have done? There's that should again, you know?
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
should do it or you shouldn't do it. Kind
Mhm.
of binary, isn't it? You
Mhm.
know? If Willow knew something else to do rather than hit the kid to get the toy she wanted when she was 2, she might have done it. So I'm asking her, and is she going to have the answer?
Maybe
No.
not.
So what I want to do is I want to go to the little girl with the toy while Willow's there and say, where did you get that toy from? Bobby had it. Well, how'd you get it? Well, I just waited till he was finished. Oh, well, that's pretty cool. What if he didn't finish? Well, I would ask him if I could have it when he was done. Well, that's okay too. One time I did him Bobby because he always just plays with that toy all the time, and I want to play with it. Well, I brought him another toy, and I said, "Hey, look at this," and he took
Mm.
the toy, and then I got the one I wanted to play with.
Mm.
Willow's listening to all of this, and she's building some skills about how to maybe do it in a different way without having to be shamed by what she
Mhm.
did,
Mhm.
because that's my shame. Generally, if someone passes shame onto you, it's something they're ashamed of.
Mhm.
No, I'm in this restaurant with my 2-year-old and sit them down in the tray and they bring you do you have a high chair with it? And it always has a metal tray and they always give a kid a spoon and the kid's going wham, 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 wham. And all the other neighbors are going, God, those people don't know how to handle their children, do they? I
Mhm.
feel ashamed and I yell at my kid.
Mm.
That's my shame that gets passed on. But
Mhm.
being guilty is different because guilty is about behaviors.
Mhm.
And there are things I've done that I feel guilty about.
Mhm.
Like when I sit down in front of the television with a channel changer and a spoon and a half-gallon of Haagen-Dazs coffee ice cream. And then all of a sudden it's not there anymore. I just figured, well, it's like drinking 2 big coffees, kind of, isn't it? You know?
And the problem with that is?
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing, it's not right or wrong. The thing is, I don't feel like that was healthy for me to eat all that sugar at one
Yeah.
time. And I
Okay.
can tell the reaction because I'm paying attention to how I feel and
Mhm.
what I'm doing, and whether I want
Mhm.
to fall asleep immediately in the middle of a conversation with my wife or something, is because I'm just having a sugar crash.
Mhm.
And so it's not that I have to beat myself up about it,
Mhm.
but if I don't hold on to that feeling, feel guilty sometime, next time I'm in the store and I have $15 to buy the Haagen-Dazs and the Toll House cookies, I go, you know what? I remember how I felt last time, and that wasn't a pleasant feeling. Maybe I'll do it next month. I'll just put it off for a month. It's
Mhm.
probably okay to do that once a month. And probably I could get just a pint and do that. And I
Mhm.
could just eat half the pint and the other half later on in the week. I mean, this is all internal stuff that's going on, but it's about how I do my life, how I'm treating myself. And
Mhm.
so I think it's okay to have some painful feeling. Guilt is a painful feeling. So is shame, but shame's about who you are. So I do not accept shame messages about myself anymore.
Mhm.
One time I have a song called Don't Put Your Hand in My Pants Just Because We're in Love.
Oh, I love that song.
It's about setting boundaries, isn't it?
Mhm.
And I was at a somewhere in Maryland and outside of Baltimore, and it was a an alcoholics awareness thing for kids, and they were bringing these kids in from the different schools, and I was playing for a little concert, 2 shows, one for 3 schools in each show,
Mhm.
And the first show had some kids in it that were, just asking hard questions and stuff. But I don't think it's just alcoholism isn't just one thing. Alcoholism is a label, isn't it? But
Mhm.
it's really about what's your behavior. It's called medicating behaviors. Can you
Mhm.
medicate with alcohol if you're feeling scared or angry or sad, painful feelings? Sure you can,
Mhm.
But can you also do it with food? Can you do it with cigarettes? Can you do it by being codependent and always involving yourself in everybody else's stuff so you don't have to deal with your own stuff? Yes, you can. And so the issue is, let's talk about how we deal with painful feelings when they come up, and how one of our um, jobs as a parent is to be able to pass on to kids a healthy feelings vocabulary. When
Mhm.
you're feeling sad, when it comes up, it's okay to be sad. And
Mhm.
it's okay to be sad. And if you want, I'll give you a hug and I won't even ask you what you're sad about. How many
Mhm.
times you go, well, what are you sad about? And that's a trap, isn't it? Because the first thing the parents do is tell you, don't be sad about that.
Don't be sad and don't be mad. I working with, birth to 5 and older, and I always say all your feelings are okay, and I'll say, is it okay to be mad? And so many times they say no, it's not okay to be mad. Like they already think that at 4 years old. I say it's okay to be mad. It's okay to want to punch someone in the face. It's just not okay to punch them in the face. But if you
Right.
want to, that you feel that feelings can't be right or wrong, but it's kind of a high level concept for a 4 year old. But it's very, what you're saying is that age old thing of love the sinner, hate the sin, kind of that same idea of be guilty about the behavior but not ashamed of who you are. And it's what you're talking about is so like high level. And in some families, even in very educated families in Los Angeles, I would try to promote some of your CDs are an easy sell, like I am a pizza, the fun ones. But the tough ones about why does daddy drink, or nobody wants that in their house because they don't want to deal with it. Like like you said, the people that need the parenting won't come to the workshop. But I don't know. I want to have hope and I want to give hope to any parents out there listening how to not feel ashamed of yourself as a parent if you goof up. Like, you're Peter Alsop, your kid hit somebody. I'm Susie Porter. I would get mad and slam the door. I'm teacher Susie. And I would feel like, oh my God, I'm a hypocrite. I'm losing. I pray, I meditate, and I still lose my temper. So that shame thing, I've researched shame a lot. It's one of the oldest feelings in our primal brain. It's, if we would leave the tribe millions of, or however many years ago, we would die. So shame is very powerful, and fear, right? And people are really afraid right now. And talk about binary, the duality between us and them. Like, I know that, you're not like the Dalai Lama or Yoda, but I do look up to you as a very wise person who's been around a long time. I mean, I was born in 1960, so I lived through the 60s and I miss the peace and love. I miss that. And so, I was researching a little about the Will Gear that Woody Guthrie stayed there, and so you've always been part of this peace and love and activism. What can you tell us to give us hope for, like, if our kids are trans, or if, I guess I don't expect you to give us a magic pill, but how do you stay hopeful? And how do you help parent, if a parent comes to you and says, I'm really scared, my kid is trans and I'm afraid for them to leave the house.
Really good question. And I'm not going to talk about it yet because
Mhm.
I'm not finished. There's a bunch of things that just happened. You talked about shame and how it's there and everything. And I was trying to say the I'm making it almost a binary thing where you go, shame is about you and guilt's about what you do. And so
Mhm.
I'm not going to deal with that part of the shame thing, but there's a whole range of guilt things, like Haagen-Dazs isn't guilty like it is if I push some kid in front of a car and he got killed. That's a whole
Mhm.
other guilt thing, isn't it? Am I ashamed of myself for doing that? Well, it was an accident, kind of. And how many times have we talked to a friend or a relative who are beating themselves up for something that they did, and
Mhm.
they're doing a shame beating up. I'm no good. I did that, and
Mhm.
we're going. It was an accident.
Mhm.
You're 4 years old. You didn't know any better. You didn't know how to do that.
Mhm.
So what you did was not okay. But what are some of the other things that we could have done, as I was trying to show you with that? But then you said, oh, there's shame and there's fear. Well, fear is not, for me, in the same category. Shame is about something that gets handed to people because I'm feeling ashamed of myself. And
Hmm.
there's no way you can, if you're busy being ashamed of yourself, if you don't get some skills about how to let go of that, and we'll talk about forgiveness in a second, but if you don't let go of that, then you're stuck in that. Now, how in the world are you going to help a kid? So you are going to feel like, oh, it's not okay to put, it's okay to think about punching someone in the face. And I'm going, yeah, you might think about that, but what, how do we help the teachers, the other Susie teachers and Susie parents? How do we help them come up with something so that they can talk to their kid about what do you do when you're mad? Well, is you just say, well, it's okay to be mad. It's not, it feels crappy. You guys use alcohol, you use other stuff, you talk, you drive cars, you just get away on a vacation, you call a friend. What do I do? I'm 4 years old. You know, we need to give them some stuff to do.
I
And
give
so,
him the Mr. Rogers song. What do you do with the mad that you feel when you feel so mad? Give him
well,
all the
that's
things to do.
right. That's one of the things. And when I started off talking about smorgasbord teaching, what I would do if you're ever in that situation, including with yourself when you're alone, is put
Mm,
out as many things on the smorgasbord as you can think of.
mm,
Gather those tools in your toolbox. So
mm,
it's not just, you don't have the Mr. Rogers songs there. You can maybe sing it if you knew it. Maybe
mm-hmm,
there's something else. How about a bataka bat where you go and you just take a pillow and you beat the pillow with your bataka bat and you yell at the pillow. Is
mm-hmm,
it okay to say bad words? Well, not good to practice those because sometimes you might say them when you're going to get in trouble. And I care about you and I don't want you to get in trouble. I don't mind hearing bad words. It's just not the way we're supposed to talk when we're four. We're not even supposed to talk that way when we're older because just because we're angry. But sometimes if you're all alone, you can say whatever you want as far as I'm concerned. But when you're there with other people, there's part of that is being, how do you take care of that? Do you express your anger by punching someone else in the face or by beating them with the bataka bat? No. How about just scribbling a picture? How about just scribbling up paper and throwing it? How about some of the physical things that kids need that we can provide them that could be in our toolbox when we're in that situation? So we don't let kids stay stuck in being mad because I can't tell you how many kids, because where they go with that is, I'm just a bad kid.
and they will be depressed when I totally believe that depression will come from all that anger stuck inside you. I think that's what happened in my life, and I think that's really important to give kids a healthy way to express anger and then move through it. Yes, move through it.
at at their time.
Right,
Because what parents do is, I can't deal with this, or grown-ups in
right.
the workplace or anything. So I need, when in therapy, I talk about the Kleenex people. And I'm crying about something, and my therapist offers me a Kleenex box, and I go, oh, I wish you wouldn't do that because you said this was a safe place, and now I'm crying. You're handing me the Kleenex because I think you're uncomfortable and you want me to stop crying, but I'm paying you a lot of money to cry here. Whatever's going on. You understand how handling that's my issue if I'm handing someone a Kleenex, isn't it? I can let them know at the beginning of the sessions, if you want to cry, there's Kleenex, and maybe cry all you want if you want
Yeah,
to, because
yeah.
this is a safe place to do that. How do I make it a safe place? I make it a safe place by making sure that I have a lot of sadness in me about a lot of things,
Mhm.
but other people have their sadness. And if I'm not going to be able to create a safe place if mine pops up so frequently that I don't have that skill in my feelings vocabulary to go, that's my sadness. This is their sadness. I'm making a place for them right now.
Mhm.
Same thing with being angry.
Mhm.
And I'm angry too. A lot. There was something in Scientology when I looked at that once. There's a Scientology center in Los Angeles, and they were letting people do concerts. I know nothing about Scientology. I went in there and I saw all this stuff, and someone said, there were these pictures of anger and stuff. And I said, what's all that? And they said, well, if somebody's this angry, what you do is you come back and you say, well, I guess yeah, I'm this angry. And that makes them come down to your level. And they go, well,
Mm,
and then I was this angry, and I was this angry. And it feels like a real technique. But you know what?
mm,
I feel like I'm being manipulated by somebody when people do that.
mm,
Trying to maneuver you
mm.
instead of helping you just do it yourself. That's why I said,
As if you should be brought down, as if that level of anger is
that's my
bad and
agenda.
wrong.
That's my agenda because I'm uncomfortable
Yeah.
feeling sad,
I feel
scared,
ashamed about my own emotions. So,
not necessarily shamed. What I'm saying is that I might be ashamed. And different people have different things. That's what I'm saying. A lot of this is just putting on the glasses to try to see things clearly. So when you said shame and fear right together as being the same thing, happy, sad, scared, and angry are really the basic four feelings that we deal.
mm,
And happy isn't usually painful, but boy, sad, scared, and angry can be very painful. And
mhm.
it's real, real human of us to when we have those feelings to try to get them to stop. So we find something to medicate them.
Hmm.
Here, take my iPhone. You play with that. You're 2 years old, but I'm busy talking and I don't know what
God,
else to do with you.
it drives
Well,
me. That's a pet peeve.
I don't know if but you get my point is
Yeah, it drives
I'm
me crazy.
uncomfortable. I don't know how else to deal with it. I
Hmm.
got spanked as a child. Okay. And I've told people, I took that John Brown belt my father used to spank with. I put it over on the shelf and I said, and I raised two daughters and a stepson. And do you think there were times when I said, I'm not going to hit him. If I'm hitting him, it means I just don't know what else to do. I only have one tool in my toolbox, and that tool will get used if I don't be responsible as a parent for coming up with some other tools. And do you think that, and I'd ask my audiences, do you think I'd look longingly at the strap sometimes over there on the shelf where I put it? And everybody laughs and goes, yeah, I'm sure you did. I go, no, yes, I did. But the point is, just like the little kid who you said, it's not okay to do that. I don't want to teach them that it's okay to use violence to solve a problem. Get the kid to stop what they're doing if I beat them enough. But boy, is there ramifications from that? There sure are. And that's not something I want to do. So what I suggest for you and for anybody else is that um, pay attention to whether it's shame or guilt that's going on, because that's part of how we build our own feeling vocabulary. If there's something that we did that we feel guilty about it, I can do something about it. What can I do? I can go to someone and apologize for what I did and
Hmm.
explain that I was scared. I'm so sorry I yelled at you, honey. You're 3 years old, but I was so frightened because the cars can't see you and you ran out in the road and I yelled at you and I shook you. I'm so sorry I did that. And what else I have? Homework. What else can I do besides doing that next time? Because I feel guilty about doing that. It's okay for me to hold on to those feelings. So next time, so I have some passion about trying to find something else to put in my toolbox. Next time my kid gets close to the traffic, I got to pay closer attention. Am I feeling ashamed of myself for not paying closer attention? I'm supposed to be watching the kid, and I was in a conversation, and all I need to do is come home with my kid's dead body and show my wife that I was blabbing with somebody. I don't want that to happen.
Mm-mm.
And if I don't have some of those feelings, those painful feelings, I won't have the motivation to try to come up with something else by talking to Susie Porter or listening to Peter Alsop, maybe, or talking to my friend, or if it happens to be someone you trust in the church. Sometimes there's people that have answers that are wonderful, and sometimes those same people are conflating with if you just love God and everything will be okay. And I think we all know that that doesn't make it okay. We all have challenges.
Yeah,
Well, I'm not saying that I don't, it's not my job to tell someone else how to have religion in their life.
yeah.
I believe
And
that
so I
when
just laughed because that's a whole nother
yeah,
talk.
it is. It is. So, but my point is that we have some proactiveness that we can do as parents
Hmm.
and as people, because wouldn't make sense for me to send a woman into a classroom to teach the kids Spanish if she didn't speak Spanish. Wouldn't make much sense, would it? So
No.
how in the world am I going to be able to help my kids or other people that I love
Right.
find balance in their life if I haven't done the work myself?
Yes, exactly.
So that's the stuff that I'm looking at, the little things that come up like the guilt and shame. So I brought that up. I'm talking about does the verbs thing that I'm talking about that um, I know I was going to tell you. I was when I was talking about being progressive and stuff. I had hair down to my waist. I was doing. And I don't know. This might have been when you saw me. I usually wear Crocs. I had purple Crocs and a
Your hair
guitar.
wasn't down to your waist, but it was
Oh,
definitely
yeah,
brown and longer.
yeah. And I'm doing things for the military folks. I can see them sitting out there at the tables in front of me, and and that's why I don't tell anyone what to do because no one likes to be told what to do. My dad had one
Right.
of his fingers, and I
Yeah.
said, and from Alan on, I might be right at assessing your problems and your things that you need to change, but the point is I can't do anything about it. All I can do is about what's my part of this because that's what I need to
Yes.
work on.
Hmm.
So I would well, oh, darn it, I've lost the story two times now. I was saying it was about the Crocs and how they smorgasbord and darn it all, it'll come back. These things are all tied in together. It was a oh, I know. I said, I bet you people I'll bet that you raise your hand if you think I'm a Republican, because I don't know anybody. And almost everybody raised their hands. A lot of people says, I said, but you know what? That's a label, isn't it? Tell
Mm.
me what a Republican does. And one
Mm.
guy said, well, I get up in the morning on Sunday and I go and I help feed the homeless people. I go, well, I would do that. Maybe I'm a Republican. What
Mm.
do you do, sir? He says, well, I send money to Dick Cheney. I said, well, I don't do that. Uh, uh, but let's talk about why you do that. Why do you think that's a good idea? Maybe I'm missing something.
Mm.
Have a dialogue if we talk about verbs that we can't have if you just dismiss someone because you've already labeled them or you've labeled yourself. I've
Mm.
had people say, I'm a Christian, I can't talk to you about this. You know,
Mm.
I majored in religion in college. And so when I learned things about the story about Moses and the bulrushes that's in the Bible, it came from an Assyrian tablet that was 1,000 years before the Bible was put together, you know. And is it okay with me if somebody really likes Moses and likes and thought, hey, that's a good story, let's put it on here because he's our leader? That's a pretty human thing to do, isn't it? You know,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that the story still doesn't have some worth for me.
Mm-hmm.
But people say, well, that's in the Bible. That's true. Everything in the Bible is true. And I'm going, well, you know what? I think no matter what somebody feels, I could find something in the Bible that you wouldn't like and wouldn't agree with, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Mm-hmm.
And you can do the same with me. So why are we trying to coerce people? Is it either one way or the other? Or is it possible that all these kind of things, which is the D, diversity, there it is. How about that? There's all these different ways that people love each other. There's all these different ways where people have different sexual orientation, how they see themselves. There's different sexual preferences. There's people that feel like they're a gender that they're attracted to. Doesn't mean you're gay or lesbian if you just want to be something else. And a lot of gay and lesbian community also do some binary stuff about seeing being butch or being femme, you know. And a lot of that, fortunately, is opening up because to allow for all the different kind of things and ways people are.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm able-bodied, and I've heard able-bodied people complain. Do you remember when they started doing it? Probably 30 years ago. They started digging up the street corners because people in wheelchairs would get down through a driveway and go down the street, but they couldn't get out of the street because when they got to the corner, there's no way to get up on the curve.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so what does it take? It takes a little more money. And if you can say, well, you know, all those disabled people, they ought to go somewhere else. You know, they ought to have a village just for them. Sounds like what we're saying about the immigrants, doesn't it? Got to
Mm-hmm.
learn to speak American, you know, or whatever. They're people. And part of the whole thing that when you mentioned about peace and love, if you
Mm-hmm.
think about it, Susie, those are labels, aren't they? Because one person says, I'm just doing this because I love you, right? Have we
Yeah.
heard that
Uh-huh.
before?
Mm-hmm.
And can we believe that? I
Mm-hmm.
believe that they believe they love me, but hitting me isn't a way to love me.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you find some other tools in your toolbox to help me learn how to, why you think that's a good idea to behave that way, Dad? Because I wouldn't behave that way as far as I can see, and now I'm 15, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Mm-hmm.
Can we
Mm-hmm.
have a talk about behaviors
Mm-hmm.
and cut somebody some slack so they feel safe around us? I want my kids to feel safe around me. My
Mm-hmm.
grown kids, I want them to be friends. And so I
Mm-hmm.
say, you know what? I will always be your father, but I'm going to stop fathering you. You hear that verb? Because when I father you, there's a equity difference. It means I have power over you. Yes, it's true. You're 16, and I'm not going to give you $5,000 and let you go to Africa with this person I don't know and go bungee jumping over the Nairobi River or whatever it is. You know, no, I'm not going to do that. But if you think about it, 80% of what you're doing, you're making your own decisions now. And by the time you're 21 or 18, I'm not gonna make decisions for you anymore. All I
Yeah.
ask is that you listen to my advice because I love you, and it's what I would do with a friend. You
I
know?
heard a great metaphor. It's
Let me
like,
just finish this before I
oh,
forget.
sorry.
I was gonna just say I'm wrapping up. So hold that thought. That I'm saying you're 18, and so I'm not gonna tell you what to do. You get to make your own decisions. I'll come and visit you in prison. Okay? Thank you. I just wanted to get the punchline in there.
That's a good punch. That's
But you get the idea.
brilliant. Oh my God. I do. My kids are 23 and 20, so I'm right there. And I remember it was like around puberty, adolescence, somewhere in those messy years where it's challenging because they stop worshiping you and looking at you like a god. And then all of a sudden you don't know anything. It's like you have to change. I heard this, I don't know the exact age, but you have to change from being a manager to being a consultant. And I thought that kind of made sense to me. Like I'm the consultant.
Labels. How would you say that with verbs?
Okay, I stopped from mothering them and always control and
Mothering.
having
What does that
control.
mean, mothering, managing? What does that
Like
mean?
I have control. I decide when they eat, what they wear, where they go, their social life. And now they decide who they're going to hang out with, even if, yeah, I mean, even if I do not want them to hang out with that person, I do not have control of that anymore. So I'm a consultant. If they ask me, should I hang out with this person? I will say, no. I
Well,
don't think it's a healthy choice, but it's your choice. And
what I
I'm
would
here. Yeah, and I'm here when that person, when all hell breaks loose because of what happened when you hung out with that person.
So here's
Okay.
the thing, Susie.
Still a little traumatized, even though that was many years ago.
what I'm suggesting is that rather than even continue using the words consultant
Mm.
and manager, is you stick with the verbs. If I'm
Verbs,
your
yeah.
kid and you're saying, I like this is how I said it. Not that I'm it's better, but I'm telling you why I'm using the verbs. I
Hmm.
said, I want to have a friendship with you as you get to be older. You're going to be
Hmm.
30, then you're going to be 40. And if
Hmm.
there's a power and equity between us, that's not what I do with my friends. We
Hmm.
listen to each other, we ask for each other's advice. I
Hmm.
will always be there for you to give you my point of view, and then you get to do what you want. Now, doesn't that sound a lot better than saying, I'll be your consultant, or you have to consult with me? You see the distance that has? Because
Yeah,
the
yeah.
consultant always has power over the person they're consulting with.
I know. I didn't think that deeply about it, and I never said it to them. It was just a fun
Sure.
switch. But no, you're right. That's
No,
why I'm interviewing you because you're the smart guy.
uh, this isn't smart. That's another thing.
Well, it's
I'm not
insightful.
smarter
It's
than you. I'm
but
not smarter.
I'm a real word nerd. I agree with Bruce Lee. Words are what did he say? Wands, magic. Words have power. I'm a writer. I believe in words. That's why my daughter's a musician, and I when she sings and I'm like I can't hear what you're saying. These artists, I need to hear what you are saying. If you wrote these beautiful lyrics, I want to hear every word. I want to think about what it means. That's why I miss albums, with all the lyrics. Words are very, very, very powerful. So, and also like the word diversity, as you were speaking, I'm so wonder what it is about human beings where we don't embrace and acknowledge our oneness and our unity. Yeah, we're diverse, different colors, different genders, but literally we're all one. And that concept is so, to me, so healing and so important. And yet go ahead.
You know the answer.
I
You
do.
know, yeah. Why are people afraid of diverse things?
Diverse, yeah, but why are they afraid of oneness? That's what I'm afraid. What I'm curious about.
What kind of oneness are you talking about?
Like you and I and every human being who's ever lived are I don't know if Carl Sagan or one of those brainiacs, we're all created literally from like star stuff, like our physical bodies and our DNA and our mind. We're all so similar. We're all human beings. We're all one human race. We're all one, like Bob Marley saying, one love, one heart. And yet that oneness, like diversity is beautiful, but why do people not, what is the aversion to the acceptance or the focus upon
What do you think it is?
fear? I guess you look different than me, I'm afraid of
I
you.
guess that's. I think it's right on. I might not be. I believe the same thing. And fear happens to people all the time when they're not familiar with stuff. The word familiar means you've been in your family, and so you know that stuff. And so many times, my husband's beating me, or my wife is being abusive to me, but I'm afraid of leaving this relationship because who am I without that person?
Mm-hmm.
Who am I? That's the question that people ask instead of what could I do? Because there's an
Mm,
answer to that.
mm, mm,
So once you realize it's very human to be afraid. I had a friend who wrote a book on women power and the biology of peace or something, and she
mm,
said, "I wish they hadn't put peace in the title." And
mm,
and I said, "Why?" She said, "Well, humans are humans. We struggle, we argue, we do stupid things, we do selfish things, all depending on where we are and what's going on around us. We
mm-hmm,
behave that way, and
mm-hmm,
some of us are better at not doing those things than others, and some are worse at it,
mm-hmm,
at not doing those things." And she said, "But I think it's possible to have a world without war. We have parts of the world without slavery, but doesn't mean that there are other that we couldn't do that because as long as we it's like what I said about the strap in the bottom of your toolbox. If that's all that strap is there, that's what
mm-hmm,
you're going to use on your kids.
mm-hmm,
And so it's our job as humans to come up with some other ways to resolve difficulties, which we've done,
mm-hmm,
negotiations and
mm-hmm.
other economic sanctions where we're not killing people, although that may be something that's happening there. We put people in prison. That's not killing anybody, but the kind of prison stuff that we're hearing about now that's going on that's been happening, the death penalty things that are going on, that are stuff that there's better ways to do it. Michael Moore, do you know who he is?
Oh yeah, sure, sure.
Yeah, he did something about all these wonderful things that other countries got from America that we don't do very well anymore. And
Mm-hmm,
he was in a prison in Sweden or something, and he's standing there with a guy while they're making dinner or something like that. One of the prisoners, he's alive, and he's got this big knife, and he says something. Michael says, "What's your invoices?" The guy goes, "Murder," and Michael, because he's not going to murder anybody in
well,
prison,
have
is
you
he?
ever have you
Funny.
ever been to Homeboy Industries or met I mean
I've heard
I've
of
talked
Homeboy Industries.
Yeah, I've talked to gang members with tattooed faces, and I'll be just chatting with them in the cafe, and they tell me how they were in prison for murder. But I think he's a priest, but he's a really cool one. It's the most successful rehabilitation program for gang members in the world. And they can't replicate it. It's something about him in Los Angeles. And when you go there, and you have a cup of coffee and you see all these, you feel love. Like I don't feel Christian love. I don't even talk about Christianity anymore because I have too much baggage. But that is one place where you feel the love of Christ or the Holy Spirit or whatever you want to call it, because these people were so hardened and so thrown away, like spoiled kids throw them away. And now you feel the love. And it's incredible. I mean, it's yeah, everybody should know about Homeboy Industries and see the work that this priest does. He does everything that you teach to do, and it works and it's helping people. And he didn't look at them and say and judge them and shame them, and yeah, some of them.
I'm going to
The thing, you're so calm. I feel so emotional when I talk about these things.
absolutely. And that's wonderful. What I want to, if we leave this conversation with this one thing, I would love for you, because you teach people and you're out there doing this stuff, is for you to put on the glasses of looking at the way that you use labels.
Mm.
That priest, oh, he's really cool though. Well, there's some people that look at that. You know who doesn't look cool was that the Archbishop Beatty. Did you see the thing when she confronted Donald
Oh
Trump?
gosh.
Did I have her name right? She looks like she's very straight, but she's
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah,
all
yeah,
too
yeah.
grounded, isn't she?
She's the
So
coolest.
let's talk about what does cool mean, because some
Mhm.
people think that's
Right.
cool.
Right, right, right.
And so it's just helps, it makes it more clear. And your chance to lay something out so people will adopt it is saying
Hmm.
what you said. This fellow, this priest, one of the things I love about him so much, it felt safe around him. I could feel the love around him. If you let off with that, instead
Hmm.
of using labels that separate, because some kids going, well, I've never been cool my whole life. I was absent the day they had the handout, how to,
Hmm.
I always felt like
Yeah,
I
there
was
are certain labels that have a lot of baggage for me
a lot of
that I
it.
used to love, like
And
Christian, American.
same thing with the word words. I love words. You're so passionate about it. What I'm saying is I love words too. What's important about what I'm saying is that the verbs help us be able to connect with each other and give us things that we can do, because stories are, I think, are why we're here, and
Mm.
our stories. And if you tell your story,
Hmm.
the braveness to talk about the pain you went through as a child with this stuff,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
how and what you've done. And what I'd love for you to do is look at some of the words you use to describe yourself when you say, oh, well, that guy's so smart. And I see you say that about me, a bunch of other people labeling about intelligence, Carl Sagan and this. They're just people who've been places you haven't been yet and have been through some stuff you haven't been through yet.
Hmm. Hmm.
And you're very bright and all of those things too. It's clear. And you're passionate, which a lot of people that are very bright have shut down that part of themselves,
Hmm.
passion. They're
Hmm.
very bright, but they don't they don't have heart in the way they deal with people sometimes.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that is that they don't seem to be caring. The word sin we were talking about before. He said, "Hate the sin. I love the sinner, hate the sin."
Hmm.
But I had a guy who was a Jewish friend of mine that said he's in charge of he was Jews for Jesus, which I hadn't heard of that organization. And he was talking about sin, and I know in Latin, I took some Latin as a kid in military school where I went in high school, and sin means without. And so I was thinking about lawyers. Now you're going to hire you're a landlord and you have this tenant who won't pay the rent, and you hire me as a lawyer to get him out of there and get the rent paid. Well, I can go in there and say, you know what? You're not paying the rent. It's been clear. You're evicted. Here's your eviction papers. You have to be out by Thursday,
Hmm.
or the police are going to come and get you. And then I leave. Or I could be someone who comes in and says, I'm so sorry about this. I know it's tough. The landlord is going to need you to move out. But these are 6 places that I looked up for you that you might be able to take your family in the interim. And I also found a couple of websites where you might be able, they want some help. First, it's not great pay right off the bat, but I know you've been having trouble getting a job.
Uh-huh.
I'm not doing that sinfully. I'm not doing it without. Sin means without God or some sign of sense of carrying some sort of heart in my life. I'm trying to help them. They're going to have to move because they're not playing by the rules of the game, and they're going to go. And I've got this job. This may not be the best job for me, but the way I'm doing it is with my heart too. Okay. And the person that just comes in with the eviction notice and says the boom, like who's that lawyer that Trump had that turned to get that was in that Michael did his 2 years in upstate or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, I mean, he actually turned around, I think, and everybody's saying, well, you can't trust him because you never trust him. But I give people a chance to learn. Do I want him to be my lawyer? I don't think so. No. But you get my point, is that you cut people some slack, but you can still
Yeah,
keep your boundaries up and take care
yeah,
of yourself so you're not
yeah.
putting yourself in a situation with somebody who's already proved untrustworthy in other arenas. That doesn't mean you can't believe anything they say. It means you just got to listen to it and see if it's helpful or not, and see if it helps you, and use your own measuring stick with that, and then proceed from there. So the thing about the way we use language is important. And so that there's the word sin used in another way that I had never really thought about. It's acting without some kind of a larger consciousness and caring about other people. All these people that are voting for Donald Trump right now, who does all these horrible things to women and does things he's racist. I mean, this isn't even a question about, I'm saying this because it's not like it's a discussion that nobody knows about. These are his behaviors, but they're Christians and they're going, what about all the people that talk about poverty in the Bible? Is that in your heart? What about doing to others as you would have them do unto you? You're going to tell me you're a Christian and you're doing this other stuff when this person doesn't care about anybody but himself? Or what his ratings are. So, is this political, or is this something that once you start understanding some of these things about caring for the children, how did Joe Biden, who I liked a whole lot, not care about these bombs that were killing these Palestinian kids just because, or Netanyahu? I don't think it's okay to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a very dear rabbi friend. We used to talk about this, and he goes, "But what else are we going to do?" And I go, "That you know what that is? That's a cry from someone who opens his toolbox, doesn't have tools in there."
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but Sheldon, I don't know what else to do. I don't have the answer to that. But what we can do is start looking for some other tools and other ways to do this than
I
what we're
think Gandhi might have had an idea of what else to do.
right. Organize. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's
Is
yeah.
any of this is this helpful for you? I hope some of this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just so emotional because I really to jump back to what you said about how I say that person is smart. Somehow I attract into my life wise older men, and you're like the fifth wise older man who has told me to stop um uh
I'm not telling you what to
qualifying or
do. I'm
putting
putting you.
myself down, or that I should just speak out, speak out.
I'm not telling you to stop. I don't know that you heard that. What I'm
Well, no,
saying.
it's
What,
I'm saying it's the most positive, affirming thing. Like my husband's grandfather, the last time I saw him, he was in his 90s, and he said, "Stop doing, just okay." You didn't say stop, but I get this feeling from wise people that you should just speak your wisdom and your truth without qualifying, and to rest and to be, what's the word? To trust your own wisdom without having to say, well, they're smart or they're.
without comparing.
Well, that, yeah, but our culture is compare, compare, compare,
Absolutely. And
compare,
do you love our
compare.
culture that much that you want to continue
I
doing
do not know. One of my favorite life coaches, Martha Beck, says there's culture and there's nature. And I'm all going for the nature. Like Mary Oliver says, what does the soft body of your animal want to do? Like culture says, work your ass off till you die and make a bunch of money and put it in the bank, and my nature says, I just want to rest. I'm tired today. You know what I mean? So yeah, or nature and my heart. You know what? Why a lot of people, whether they're intellectual or whatever, turn their heart off? Because in my personal experience, I'm 64 years old. I usually don't talk about that, but it's really hard to feel feelings. And I don't think people talk about that enough. How, for me personally, it was excruciatingly difficult to feel all the feelings I needed to feel. And it didn't get easier. I think it's probably a little easier now because I've been feeling them for decades, but it hurts to hurt.
right.
And I don't like alcohol and drugs. Well, I did when I was 14, but since then I don't. And so it's not my solution. So
Mhm.
I feeling feelings is really hard, Peter. That's why people have sex, go shopping, watch TV, scroll, drink, do drugs, because it's hard. I mean, in my experience, it's difficult. It was difficult for me to feel all those feelings.
Let's chunk it down though a little bit.
The sad was real hard.
Right. Remember what I said? Happy, sad, scared, and
Scared and
angry.
angry.
It's happy. You seem to do happy pretty well.
I love happy.
That's one of the feelings, isn't it?
I
What
want to be
what you're
happy.
talking about, sad, scared, and angry, are the other
Hmm.
feelings. But most other things, all the feelings you can think of, will generally fall into one of those categories.
Hmm.
And you have two feelings at the same time. You can be happy and angry at the same time,
No,
and you can't.
I don't know. I can't. I don't know if I can be happy and angry.
Well, I can be happy and sad. Let's see, my kid just left for college.
Okay, bittersweet, happy, sad. Yeah, yeah,
All I'm thinking, I'm angry and happy at the same
yeah,
time.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
I've been trying to get rid of this car. Nobody wants it, and someone came and stole my catalytic converters.
Oh no.
And so I'm angry that they stole something from me, but now I don't have to, I can either get new catalytic converters from the insurance company and I don't have to worry about it, or you see what I'm saying? I mean, I'm just coming up with stuff at the top of my head, but there's so many things. That's one of the things that I do with my sculpting. You know what? And I will get you one of my videotapes, which is called Get Real. It's done with Jerry Moe, who's
Mm,
been director of the children's program at the Betty Ford Center for years and years.
mm,
And it teaches something that we both have a similar teacher. We met through her, a woman named Sharon Wegscheider Cruz,
mm,
Sharon Cruz, and she worked with Virginia Satir, and she does sculpting with people. And we've taught this, Jerry and I
mm, mm,
taught it for years, which is how do you physicalize some of the stuff I'm talking about?
mhm,
Again, verbs. How do you make? How would you show people these algorithms? And so I'll have people come up, and I'll have four feelings stand behind them, and those are all
mhm,
their feelings. And they say, "Well, I'm feeling sad." And I go, "Well, wait a minute." And I'd have sad reach out and touch their shoulder. Say, "Is it okay if
mm,
I'm sad? Can you feel sad now?" And they're going, "Yeah, I feel sad." And all of a sudden, feeling angry too. Wow. And they're,
mm,
are you feeling happy? No, happy's just standing there in the wings. You know, by physicalizing it, you get a chance to talk about some of these things.
mhm,
And I'm
mhm,
happy to give you that to look at so that you get some more of this stuff that might be useful because I didn't make all this up. A lot of this was people that came into my life because I tried to create that space where that would happen because I needed to know when I was struggling with something, you know?
mhm,
So again, I want to clarify the thing about telling you to stop. I'm not trying to tell you to stop. I'm saying if you can put on your inquisitive glasses, which means that has to do with the verbs and the stuff, and you look at
mhm.
comparison stuff, and what does that do? Because that looks right off the bat, it looks pretty binary. It's either they're good and I'm not good.
Yeah, they're
And
better.
so it's not about
They're
stop.
better. I'm
It's
better.
about it's about saying what I see in you is somebody who's out there working your butt off, trying to help other people and stuff. And one of the things I want to pass on to you, so you can pass it on, because remember, like Spanish teacher, you can't teach Spanish if you don't know how to do it yourself. Is
Hmm.
some of the things that I've learned about some of the feelings and how to build a feelings vocabulary, so you can help a parent build their own feelings vocabulary, so that their kids can grow up with someone that has a healthy feelings vocabulary,
Hmm.
understanding that when someone crosses one of my boundaries, that anger is an appropriate response rather than feeling, oh, I'm angry and I'm going to feel painful and I'm going to take it out on somebody else. I had a chance to look and say, oh, my wife didn't cross one of my boundaries, which is why I told that story. So I learned to do that. So now I just haven't had a fight that I would have had if I hadn't learned that. Now I got to go back and say, well, it's not okay for me to just want to do her to do everything my way, is it? No, it's not. So what was it? Here's another one. I heard saying, we both go, it's the word that we use. It's like, I was, Susie, you say, Peter, I want you to close the refrigerator door. And I go, oh, I was just gonna put the milk back in there, or
Hmm.
and do you hear what's going on there? I use the word just, and when someone's using the word just, I haven't seen this in any books. I thought of this myself and realized I'm trying to justify what I'm doing. I left the door open,
Ah,
but I was
just
just doing
justify.
it. So what I hear a lot of times, I'm just giving my wife information about something. I go, well, blah, blah, blah. She goes, oh, I'll be there in just a minute. Just was doing this.
Mm,
And I'm thinking to myself, what can I learn about this? If I put myself in her shoes when I hear her use that word, she's
mm,
trying to justify her. Why would she do that? She thinks because I'm being critical of her or I'm being harsh or I'm making and passing a judgment on her.
mhm,
And now that I have that information, even though I didn't do it, I can go, hey, I didn't do it. Well, I was just bringing it up because, and well, you were just, see where we're going with that? So for me, and this is hard for me, I'm still working on this one. When I hear her use those words, I need to sit back and say, I love this person, I care about them. They're feeling like I'm picking on them or that I'm being critical of them when all I was trying to do is give them information. And sometimes I go, hey, I was just trying to give you some information. See how you can't say that sentence without adjusting it myself. Because I'm feeling like unappreciated because I didn't do anything to hurt you. I was just explaining something, just those kind of wear those glasses and think about it. Tape yourself sometime in an interaction. Say, okay, we're having lunch. I want to tape it and listen back to the tape. And
Mm,
then listen to your words with those glasses on and see
mm,
what you're doing because that will help you without having to get a. I think going to college, you think you're supposed to learn all this stuff out of books. I think going to college, if you can get a course in yourself, that's way valuable. And that's one of some of the hard work you've been doing that I think is so
mhm,
wonderful. And
mhm,
you're passing it on. And in the
mhm,
process of passing it on,
mhm.
you've invited me to talk with you about this. And because you felt there was something there that you might find useful. Well, that's what I want to see if I can leave something on the smorgasbord that you'll pick up and put into your toolbox so that you got some other tools to help because I'm not going to be around forever.
Oh.
You know that, don't we?
All right. Well, don't make me cry, but I want to just sort of
It's after
I
11 too.
okay, it's after 11, so we're going to end. And I'll just say that thank you for sharing all your wisdom. And as you were speaking, I was thinking, I know the world that I want to create is a world where every child and adult would feel that we could acknowledge the innocence of everyone. And if we have a suggestion or something to say, that we can communicate without attacking and defending. That's a big growth curve. But yes, and I want to acknowledge you and appreciate you for your decades and decades of hard work, and especially for your songs about sexual abuse and body autonomy, for all the girls that you've helped to prevent them from being abused, for my daughter memorizing that song. It means more to me than I can possibly express in words. I think that you are a mensch and a truth teller, and the fact that you would take your all your education and all your experience and all your wisdom and write songs to help children means everything to me, and I really appreciate you.
Thank you. I'm a compulsive teacher. I just because when I get something, I feel like I'm going to give you one more thing about what you just said that would be wonderful. What
Wait, I
helped?
gotta grab a Kleenex.
Okay. See, now that's great. That's great. You're doing it yourself. That's
Yes, I am.
one of the things besides the verbs and nouns things that really helps me a lot, stay balanced, and be clear about stuff and give me ways to proceed when other people feel stuck.
Uh-huh.
Is also seeing the inner child in that. When I'm driving down the freeway and I was doing something and I'm drifting into another lane and some guy drives by and says, "Hey, kind of
Yeah,
thing,"
yeah.
and I go, um, it does not bother me in the least. I apologize and I go, yes, I drifted into your lane. He was scared. And there's a 9-year-old driving that huge Ford 350 with fuelies in the back. And I don't want to chase him
Oh,
and get mad and do all that stuff
yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
that's not going to help anybody. But when
Right.
I see the 9-year-old, and I've taught this to people at Fortune 500 companies, I was at SO of Canada one time and I had everybody standing there with their hand on their heart.
Mm.
And the guy that had hired me was there, and I guess his boss walked in. I didn't know that. I'm on stage, and I said, "Can you feel your hearts beating?" These are all middle management for SO of Canada.
Wow.
Yeah. And I said, "You know what? If we started counting them when you were born until the time you died, there's a limited number of those beats that you have. And there's only one person right now who's in charge of how you're using up that time."
Mm.
And I heard about this afterwards from the guy that hired me. He said, my boss came in when you were doing that. And he said, who hired this guy? I don't want them thinking about that stuff. I need more productivity from them.
Oh, wow,
I don't know if the guy
wow.
that hired me got in trouble, but I'm bringing that up because when in business, if you see the guy that's picking on you, your boss, and you can see the inner child, you realize that's his problem. I'm going to take a look at what he's saying that I'm doing that's not okay. But mostly when he's picking on me, or he's doing something. Sometimes you go, yeah, I have to pull my socks up in that area. I'm going to do that. They're right. He or she or they are right. But sometimes you go, that's not my problem. They're dealing with something else. I don't know what it is, but it's bigger than me, and it's a 9-year-old inside of them that's scared. So now I got to figure out how to, just like when I was trying to figure out with my wife saying just, I'm not doing anything wrong, and she isn't really even pushing back too much. She's just using that language of the just that gives me an awareness that if I can hang on to that, I can maybe drop my own energy a couple notches. I can go in and give her a hug and say, we're not in a hurry. I'm sorry. I felt like I was rushing you probably. Even if I didn't feel like I was rushing her, I was just explaining something, you know? I mean, how do I do that is by looking for these clues from the other interactions with people.
Mhm.
So there you go, kiddo. It's good to talk to you. Thank you for having me on.
Mwah.
We'll
I
do
love
this.
you, Peter Alsop.
Wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Sign off.
I'll put your information and stuff in the comments so people can read your Substack and listen to your music and all the great things.
That'd be great. Tell them about Ebenezer's Makeover.
And about, yes, your show. Oh, I have it too.
Can you see that?
Ebenezer's Makeover. Yes,
I
I
mean,
have.
it's backwards in my screen, but it should be forwarded
Oh,
here.
that's funny. Is it backwards in mine too? Let's see.
No, yours is backwards. If you look at your own screen
Oh,
now.
mine is backwards too.
Yeah, it's because it's flipped or something. I don't know.
I can't wait. An original musical. I cannot wait.
All right.
Yes, I've already posted about it. I will continue to promote.
Okay. Thanks. Take care of yourself.
You too, Peter.
Bye.
Bye.